Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. This is the informational webinar for the Native Arts Fellowship at the National Museum of the American Indian. We will be hosting a separate webinar for the Native American Collections Fellowship tomorrow. You are more than welcome to attend both, and hopefully you're in the right webinar location today. My name is Kendall Trehane. I am a member of the Ho-Chunk Nation of Wisconsin. I'm also the Fellowship Program Administrator at National Museum of the American Indian. I will be taking you through the webinar today. I am also joined by my colleague, Camila Rivera, who is a member of Mapuche Nation, and she is our staff assistant who supports fellows and interns. She will be assisting me on the webinar with the Q&A section and also supporting any technical needs during this webinar. I know that folks may still be actively joining us, so welcome if you've just joined. We are also recording the webinar and we'll be posting it to the NMAI webpage in the coming weeks. So before we go too far, I just wanted to share a little bit of housekeeping with you. This is a Zoom webinar format. Because of this, all attendees are automatically muted throughout the webinar. However, if you do have a question, please feel free to use the Q&A button on your screen and enter your question into the question box. Just a few notes is that your question will not become immediately visible to all attendees, but please be assured your hosts, myself and Camila, are able to view them. So we will be able to answer those via chat. We also have a Q&A section at the end where we'll be answering questions verbally too that may need a little more explanation. But keep an eye on that Q&A feature. You'll see answered questions there as we go along. Also, if you, for some reason, have issues using the Q&A feature, you can also use the raise hand feature at the end of this webinar. At that point, we would be happy to unmute you and take your questions that way too. And then also really briefly, this is what you can expect on the webinar today. I'll start out by giving you sort of a welcome and introduction to National Museum of the American Indian, or NMAI for short. We understand that some folks may be new to our institution, so I just want to share a little more about ourselves and our history. Then we'll give you an overview of the fellowship program, the Native Arts Fellowship. That will be followed by a walkthrough of the online application system, sort of how you can access it, things that you can expect to see in the online system, and sort of help with your navigation through that process. And then we'll conclude with dedicated time for questions and answers. So to give you a little bit of background, so National Museum of the American Indian is part of the Smithsonian Institution. Smithsonian is the world's largest museum, education, and research complex. It was established back in 1846 and currently consists of 21 museums plus our national zoo. In addition to those facilities, we also have 9 research centers and a recording label and 21 different branch libraries. We do have approximately 6,700 employees and 13,500 volunteers that support our institution. Within that, we also host roughly 3,000 interns, fellows, and researchers a year, and that is across the entire Smithsonian. We are also considered a quasi-federal agency, and we also support and have a lot of affiliate museums. So there are over 215 affiliate museums located throughout the US. The photo that we have pictured here is actually a photo of one of the museums that is located up in New York City, the Cooper Hewitt Design Museum. And that is just to show that Smithsonian has a broad reach, not just within the Washington, D.C. area, but we have facilities across the US. Moving on to our particular museum, NMAI, our museum was established in 1989 through an act of Congress, the National Museum of the American Indian Act. During that time, collections were transferred from an institution called the Museum of the American Indian, or the High Foundation in New York, over to Smithsonian. We now consist of 3 different facilities. So we have our original, or the New York location, which is located at the George Gustav High Center in New York City. It's located in the financial district of New York. That opened in 1994. Our second institution is the Cultural Resources Center. This opened in 1999 and is located in Suitland, Maryland. It's about a 20-minute drive outside of downtown DC. This is where the majority of our collections are housed. I do point this one out because if you do apply for the fellowship and you get selected to be a fellow, this is the facility that you will be visiting, as it does house many of our collections. And so we will, of course, share more information with you about accessing the facility, how that works as a fellow, should you receive the fellowship. And then our last location is our flagship location, our mall museum, which is located on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. And that one opened in 2004, so we celebrated our 20th anniversary this year. Really important to us is our mission and vision, so I wanted to share those with you today. Our mission statement is, in partnership with Native peoples and their allies, NMAI fosters a richer shared human experience through a more informed understanding of Native peoples. And coupled with that is our vision statement, which is equity and social justice for Native peoples of the Western Hemisphere. And both of these are really important to us and integral to the work that we do. The fellowship also very clearly aligns with this mission and vision statement. We have lots of different collections that researchers can access, so I also wanted to share some of those numbers here. We know that many people, when they think about visiting a museum, often think about the object collections, which is of course very important. We have over 840,000 items divided into archaeology, ethnology, and modern and contemporary arts. I will note we are still an active collecting institution, but our priorities for collecting are modern and contemporary arts. Also going along with our object collections are our photographic archives and our paper archives. These are also housed at the Cultural Resource Center in our archives division. We always like to highlight these two because they can provide a wealth of information for researchers. For example, our photographic archives have approximately 324,000 images documenting many different aspects of Native life, including some of our events, exhibits, staff, research, behind the scenes work, all of those sorts of things. Sometimes we'll even have old photographic images of objects that you may be looking at in the collections. So it's always helpful to sort of cross-reference those too. And with that is also our paper archives. We have about 1,522 linear feet of records that date all the way to the originating collectors' notes in the 1860s. And so that is also a really good collection to reference to in thinking about, how did some of these items come into collections, kind of what is their history during their time with us. We also have papers from the National Congress of American Indians, so we like to highlight that too, since we are the repository for their materials. And then finally, we have our Vine Deloria Junior Library, which of course honors Vine Deloria Jr. And within that, we have research materials, including over 40,000 volumes of books, periodicals, microfilm, and media. And then also a small but growing rare book section. Within the library is where we also house our Native American artist files and ephemera. And we are, as I said, we are focused on modern and contemporary art. We're also focused on, collecting works from Native artists and Native activists into those paper and library archives. So that's a little bit of background on NMAI. I'd like to spend some more time though, for the real reason you're here, which is to go over the Native Arts Fellowship. So this is a new program that we launched in I guess we launched it earlier this year, 2024. We had our first cohort start with us just this past fall. And so this is our second call for applications, brand new program. We are still very actively learning a lot about this fellowship. Through this program, we do seek to increase the number of artists who are engaging with and researching collections at NMAI. The way that the fellowship is structured is it's a 8 to 10 week program with 2 to 4 of those weeks on site. It also includes financial support in various stipends and additional allowances. So there is a base stipend of up to $7,800, sort of depending if you do that 2 weeks or if you're on the longer end of 4 weeks. So it's based on how many weeks you're here. But that base fellowship is intended to support general living expenses during your relocation to DC. There's also opportunity for up to $2,500 for additional research allowance. Those additional research monies are intended to support things like equipment, supplies, or other research-related travel that you may need in order to conduct your research. So examples could be going to a conference, going to another institution, printing, copying expenses, things like that, any additional expenses that you may need to support your research here at Smithsonian. And then finally, there's also a travel allowance, which is included into the fellowship. And that is sort of calculated based on where you're coming from, your relocation to and from wherever you're staying over to Smithsonian. That covers the cost of round trip travel to and from your home to Washington, D.C. Additionally, we do have additional professional development and networking opportunities that under the Native Arts Fellowship, and I'll go into that in a little more detail on the next page. So within this program, we have a 6-week virtual phase, which is really dedicated to building skills and capacity of the artist fellows to conduct their research and navigate future museum engagements. So during that 6-week virtual phase, it's really an opportunity to learn more about the NMAI collections and resources that are available to you while you're here in DC. Obviously, we hope that you look into some of those prior to starting the fellowship, but this will give you sort of more of a deep dive into some of the things that you might be interested in considering that you might not have thought of before. It also gives you some time to start networking and connecting to the other fellows and to many of our staff who work with our collections here at the museum, and start to gain some of their insights on how to go about different things. After that 6-week virtual phase is when you have the opportunity to come between 2 to 4 weeks to do your on-site research. And that time is really meant to just, you're dedicating your time to conducting the research that you wish to do at the institution. And you can take that 2 to 4 weeks anytime, within the year of the fellowship. After that, we do have some additional post-fellowship support that is available through this opportunity, and that is really dedicated to supporting a community-based project to bring the experience, to bring the knowledge and information that you learned at NMAI back to your community. So again, just to reiterate, for this particular upcoming cycle, the virtual phase will start August 1st, go until about mid-September of 2025. And then your on-site period can be anywhere between mid-September to July of 2026. As far as eligibility, again, just to reiterate, this fellowship is supporting artists who want to visit and learn from collections housed at NMAI. So in that vein, individuals that may be best suited for this program are those who have clear connections or ties to a community with collections housed at NMAI. Those who might consider themselves early in their artistic careers, or maybe venturing into new art forms, including those who have experience in their fields but are not yet fully established. We do have that really strong professional development component of this program, and so that's why we highlight that particular bullet point, including the following, which is could benefit from additional mentorship on museum collections research and engagement. And then lastly, have a desire to share their work and knowledge with Native communities. As far as application components, I wanted to share them with you here, and then when we go into the online application, you can sort of see where those different elements fall into place. But just to highlight them here, there's a couple different sections of the application that you'll definitely want to be focusing on and providing materials for. So of course, right off the bat, the first is your contact information, and then any travel information. As far as traveling from your home to DC, so that we have that information available. Also, your proposed project and research title, I'll show you where you can input that into the online form. But sort of the main, the meat of the application is going to be in what follows. So the first is your project or research proposal. So that we ask for 1,500 words or less. That is the description of the research that you're planning to undertake while you're at NMAI, its importance or benefit to Indigenous communities, justification for conducting your research at Smithsonian, essentially why Smithsonian, why are you applying to this particular fellowship, how is it going to benefit you and your community. Also, please include any current consultations or collaborations that may be ongoing with Indigenous communities. And then this is also helpful for us in thinking about how to plan your time while you're on site. If there are any other Smithsonian or non-Smithsonian collections that you might be interested in visiting during your time as a fellow. We'll also ask you for a timeline of conducting your on-site research activities, sort of what is your tentative plan for how you might envision your time to play out? And then also a budget for that $2,500 research allowance. And again, that allowance is to support any additional research-related activities that you may need. Please also upload some additional attachments, including a resume or CV. Make sure that your resume or CV includes your work and collaborations with Indigenous communities or other relevant stakeholders. We'll also ask for some portfolio examples. This is up to 5 artistic works that demonstrate your work in your artistic field. And then this year, we've added a reference letter component. If you have applied to this program before, this is a new requirement, but we are asking for 1 reference letter from an individual who can speak to your artistic ability and the importance of your proposed work. I also want to highlight, we ask for 1, but you're more than welcome to upload more than 1. So just wanted to flag that, that more than 1 such letter can be included. Sort of the last couple things that you'll see in the online application are these additional components. One is a section where you can upload academic transcripts. Please note that this is required for any applicants who may require visa sponsorship. This is because the Smithsonian sponsors fellows through the J1 visa program, and this is a requirement of the J1 visa program. So please make sure that if you do require any sort of visa sponsorship, to please upload those academic transcripts. We always encourage unofficial transcripts. We know that those are often a lot easier to obtain. So please go ahead, feel free to upload those. And then I also want to make a note in case we have any individuals who are from First Nations, Canada, that any individuals under the J Treaty should not need visa sponsorship. So we do recognize that. And so I just wanted to note that here too. And then finally, You might see some, or you will see some additional research and planning questions in the application, and I'll point those out when we go through the online version. But just asking if there are any scheduling concerns or obligations you may have during the fellowship period. This does not, this shouldn't be a barrier to your applying or receiving a fellowship. This is just mostly to help us in the planning process as we're scheduling professional development opportunities. And then finally, there are some standard research specific questions that are in most of Smithsonian fellowship applications. So you'll just, they're yes, no questions. So those should be pretty easy to answer. They also have a not sure or not applicable option too, in case they do not apply to you. Finally, I do want to go over the selection criteria as well, just so you can get a sense of how the selection process goes as far as what we'll be looking at as we're reviewing applications coming in. So of course, we're looking at applicant eligibility. So again, please review that and make sure that you're eligible to apply. And then the two main things that we'll be looking at is use of NMAI resources and impact or benefit to Native communities. So again, I know those are things that I sort of highlighted in the proposal section, but again, we'll be looking at, why NMAI, why now, why is this a good time for you? How is it beneficial to you and your community? Just another note too, that I saw in some other informational webinars that I think is good to share here is it's really helpful to think of Smithsonian as a research destination and not just a funding source. So again, really getting to that use of NMAI resources, why this particular institution. And then also some of the most powerful proposals that have come through in the past through other fellowship opportunities are ones that really utilize the collections. And so again, be thinking about the items that you might be interested in looking at, whether that's object, archival, or library. Just some general tips for submitting your application. Please, of course, take the time to prepare your application. We have a lot of resources on our website that I'll point out to you once we get to that portion of the webinar. But take some time to search the NMAI and Smithsonian online collections. That'll give you a really good overview of things that you might be interested in looking at when you come on site. Also, make sure to look at some of our research staff interests. To see, are there staff that you would be interested in connecting with while you're here? Folks that maybe really align with your particular area of work. Definitely, I encourage you to take a look at those. Also, just make sure that you're addressing each prompt in the research proposal. Each application is read by a team of reviewers. And so that is something that we'll be looking for, is just making sure that we have answers to each of those sections. Also, plan to submit early. And this is just, one of those general tips because there might be unexpected delays in the submission process. Something unexpected might come up in your personal life. And so, it might delay your submission. So just always plan to submit early in case any of those unexpected things come up so that you can still get your application in on time by the deadline. And then of course, with the references, make sure that you're proactively reaching out to those folks as well, letting them know that this is coming down the pike, so that they have time to work on those reference letters and upload those for you. And then finally, please feel free to reach out for any questions. Camila and I are here to support you during this application time, and we're happy to answer any questions that come our way. So please always feel free to reach out. As far as accessing the online application, there's a couple different ways that you can get to it. And Camila will drop the link for the SOLAS system directly into the chat, along with our fellowship's webpage. And then I'll show you how to access the application through our webpage too. But you can go directly to what's called the Smithsonian Online Academic Appointment System, or SOLA for short. This is the system that Smithsonian uses for fellowship and internship applications. So this is Smithsonian-wide system that we use. We also have this link posted on our NMAI Fellowships webpage, which is americanindian.si.edu, about fellowships. And you can find this by scrolling to the Native Arts Fellowship opportunity. We have multiple fellowship opportunities listed on that page. But go ahead, scroll to the Native Arts Fellowship, expand the option for application and selection process, and then you should see the link for the Smithsonian Online Academic Appointment System, and you can go ahead and just directly click on that. It'll take you to that page. When you go to access the online application, it's going to ask you to create an account or log in if you already have an account. So that is sort of the first step in the process. We do understand that applications usually take several days to get through. So make sure you plan for that. And that's also why it's important to have an account login, because you'll need to close out, save, close out, log back in to finish things. Sort of the next step is to, obviously make sure you're starting your application. Select start your application at the top of the page. It'll open up a list of all of the programs that are available. So make sure you search for the program you wish to apply to. When you look in the online system and find the Native Arts Fellowship, this is sort of what it'll look like on screen. And I'll again, when we get to the online portion, I will show you how to sort of walk through the SOLA system and find this information. And some general tips for submission is, of course, just to make sure you fill out anything in the application that has an asterisk. That information is required by our Central Smithsonian Office of Fellowships. You'll also get a notification in the system. It actually won't let you submit without all of the required information filled out. So if you do try to submit, it'll give you a warning and tell you which fields you still need to fill out. And then one other thing too is you can also check out the details or special instructions section of the application. I'll show you where you can find that. Or you can refer directly to the program page, section on our website. But that details special instructions section will tell you exactly what you need in order for your application to be complete. And again, most of this required information is going to be uploaded into what's called the materials section of the application. So I will make sure to point that out to you in just a little bit. And so I'm going to stop sharing this PowerPoint screen so that I can transition us over to the online system and show you that. All right. So I wanted to show you how you can get to the online system through our NMAI webpage. So again, when you log in or when you go to NMAI, this will be the home screen that you see. If you go to the About section, it's not as intuitive, so I wanted to share that. You want to go to the About section, and from here is where you can see our internships and fellowships pages. So I'm going to go ahead and click on fellowships. And from here, our contact information is listed on the right-hand side. So if you do need to reach out to us by email or by phone, you can always find our information there. But then on this page, you'll see all of the different fellowship opportunities that NMAI hosts. So, feel free to scroll through those. If you have additional questions about any of the other programs, feel free to reach out. But we're interested in the Native Arts Fellowship, so I've scrolled down here. From here, go to the application and selection process, and here you can see applications must be submitted through SOLA to be considered. Here you can also see all of the different materials needed for the application, so you can always refer here for that information. Before I click on SOLA, I did want to share a couple other resources too that we'll highlight in the PowerPoint later on, but I just wanted to show you now where you can find them. So one is our really great FAQ section. So if you have some questions, feel free to look here first. Of course, if you don't see your answer here, feel free to reach out to me and Camila, but you can click on any of these. It'll expand and provide you some more information. Another area that you can find more resources is actually from the fellowship section here, specific to the Native Arts Fellowship. You'll see an option down here called additional resources. Go ahead and expand that, and that'll give you some additional links to other websites that you might be interested in looking at. So one is our online collection search. That'll link you right to that page. A list of our research and curatorial staff might also be helpful to look through. We also have general links to Smithsonian-wide collection searches. So these get sort of let you browse through all of Smithsonian's collections, not just those housed at NMAI. And that could be helpful to you to look through as well. We know that the National Museum of Natural History often has a lot of Native American collections as well. So that could be helpful to look at. Their collections facility is located right across the street from ours. So it would be very easy, for you as a fellow during your time in DC to be able to sort of look at materials from both collections. So please be sure to check those out. We know archives can be a little daunting, so we've also posted an additional link there. Our reference archivist, Nathan, did a really great tutorial on how to search the online virtual archive, so I would encourage you to check that out as well. But to go back to application and selection, I would like to take you through the online academic appointment system. All right, and I'm just making sure, okay, that you can all see that. So this is what the SOLA page looks like. From here, if you don't have an account with us already, you can go ahead and create an account. If you have an account, you can log in. I did want to show you though, if you want to just browse opportunities first, you can always hit this Explore Opportunities button. That'll take you to our Central Smithsonian Fellowship page with more information about each program. And you can actually also click the Start Your Application option as well. So if you do that, it'll take you to a general page to search for programs. If you know the name of your program, if you, for example, know it's Native Arts Fellowship, you can go ahead and type that into the program name. If you're not quite sure, or you type in Native Arts, nothing pops up, you can also search by our different units. So you would want to look for NMAI. This should be ordered alphabetically. So if you go to NMAI, National Museum of American Indian, you'll go ahead and click that. You'll see that this defaults to any currently active programs. So make sure that you have that highlighted, and then go ahead and click search. So when we do that, we'll see that there's 3 different opportunities that are active for NMAI that pop up. One is our general internship program. That one is always active. So that one you'll always see come up. And then we have our 2 open fellowship opportunities right now, the Collections Fellowship and the Arts Fellowship. So from here, if you're just interested in getting a high-level view of what's included or what you'll need to include in the application, you can hit the Details button. That'll pull up some more information about, where you can find more information about the program, what are the different application elements that you'll need to include. If you click on the Show More feature, this will also go into more detail about all of the application materials you'll need to upload. So things that I mentioned, like the CV, potentially transcripts, your plan for your research allowance, your proposal, portfolio timeline, and then also references. I also mentioned some of those additional research-related questions that we see on many of the Smithsonian Fellowship applications, so you can sort of see what those questions are that you'll need to answer. And then again, travel information, title of your research. If you have any tribal affiliations, please make sure to include those as well. So I'm going to go ahead, click out of that. If you are ready to apply, go ahead and click the Apply Now feature. This pop-up will appear, just double checking that you want to apply for this program. Go ahead and click OK. And from here, it'll take you back to the login page. I'm going to pause my share for just a moment while I get logged in to the application. All right. So I'm logged into the application. This is the first page that you'll see. So it'll ask for personal information. So go ahead, fill out what you can. Again, anything listed with this little asterisk is something that's required. So make sure that you scroll through, fill out anything that is marked with an asterisk. One thing that you can do is to navigate between the different pages is, of course, you can go ahead and click this next button. That can take you to the next screen. I'm going to go ahead and click that. And then, okay, there we go. So now you can see that I've gone to the next screen. So again, you can navigate that way. The other way that you can navigate is to use these chevrons at the top of the page. And so you can do that if you want to bounce around between sections, things like that. So again, you can click the next button or you can navigate using these chevrons. I want to show you some of the main areas that you're going to need to fill out. And so I'm going to go and click on program choices. All right, so we've moved over to program choices. Again, this is where you're going to put in your relocation information. So whatever city you're coming from, to Washington, D.C. or Cultural Resources Center, NMAI. You can put that in the Smithsonian facility. This is where your research title and tribal affiliations go. Next, I'm going to take us to the materials section. All right, so materials is where you're going to upload the majority of your information. So again, these are all uploaded as different attachments, your plan for your research allowance, your CV, portfolio, proposal, timeline, transcripts. As you scroll down, you'll see all of the different file options that you can upload to this section. Just please note that our maximum file size is 3 megabytes. If you run into any issues with the technology, also feel free to reach out and let us know. But from here, you'll want to make sure that you select the appropriate title of whatever it is you're uploading. So say, for example, I'm ready to upload my research allowance budget. I want to make sure I click on budget request. From there, I'll choose my file. And I have these options already set up for myself. So I'm going to go ahead, click on research allowance, and then I'm going to upload. As you upload, it should tell you that your upload was successful. And so now when I scroll down, I'll see that, oh, I have uploaded my budget request. It's this file name. I uploaded it on this date. You can always delete something if you realize you uploaded the wrong file, or maybe you needed to make an edit to it and want to upload a more up-to-date version. You can always delete and re-upload. And again, just make sure that as you're going through that you're selecting the right file for whatever it is you're uploading. All right. So now I'm going to advance us to references. All right, so on the reference section, again, you're more than welcome to include more than one reference, but we asked for a minimum of one. In this section, you're going to select Add New Reference. From here, you'll get a pop-up. It'll give you the option to put in the name of your reference letter writer. So make sure that you fill this information out. Once you have information filled in, I'll go ahead, I'll put myself in for an example. Once you have all of the required fields filled out, it'll give you the opportunity to save. And then the next thing that you'll want to do, this is really important. We want to make sure that you don't forget to do this. You want to hit email referee. And so what that's going to do is it's going to send an email to your reference letter writer at the email address that you input into that particular box. It'll send them an email essentially with a link that they will need to click in order to upload their reference letter. So this is why we also say it's good to proactively reach out to your reference letter writers, let them know that this request is going to come to them, that they'll get a separate email from the SOLAS system with a link to upload their reference letter. So again, make sure you click this. Once you click that, it'll ask you if you want to send the email to the referee. Go ahead and click OK. And now I can see, okay, this email was sent to trahane@si.edu on this date. From here, you can also view the information that you already put in. But again, make sure you reach out to your reference letter writers to let them know that this separate link is coming to them. And I will take us to the questions section to kind of close out this virtual walkthrough, and then we'll go back to the PowerPoint. All right, so from the questions section, again, you'll see some of those questions that I went over in the PowerPoint. If you've applied to the program in a previous year, of course, let us know. We welcome repeat applicants, so please feel free to reapply. If you have any scheduling concerns or obligations during the fellowship, and then those basic research questions that are included in many of our Smithsonian Fellowship applications. So once you're done, you can go ahead and hit the submit button or go to the submit page. It'll tell you if there's any required information that you haven't filled out yet that you need to. So it won't let you submit until that information is filled out. So you don't need to worry about submitting an incomplete application. If you are missing something like a reference letter or maybe you missed one attachment, that is something that Camila and I will be looking for when we're sorting through applications as they're coming in. And so if something like that happens, we will reach out to you and just say like, hey, we noticed your budget was missing, or like maybe you uploaded the wrong document. So we'll make sure to reach out to you in case something like that happens, to give you the opportunity to send the right information in. So I am going to, I guess really quick, I will go ahead and save so you can see what it looks like when you log back in. Oh, I guess it doesn't close out. So I will show you from my user menu, my applications. If you need to come back to work on, you've started working, you saved, you're coming back a different day to finish your application, you would log in and it would take you to this page, My Applications. From here, you can see, okay, I started working on Native Arts Fellowship. It's not complete yet, but maybe you want to keep working on it. From here, you can click Edit. It'll take you back into the application and let you continue working on it. You can also email us from within the SOLA system. So if you hit this email program coordinator button, it'll send an email to myself and Camila. So that's one way that you can also get a hold of us, is to just click this email program coordinator button. And from here, you can also delete or copy your application as well. So just wanted to share those options with you. So I'm going to go ahead, stop sharing this screen and take us back over to the PowerPoint. All right. So, just giving you a few last resources before we open it up for Q&A. Again, some important dates to remember is the application deadline is January 31st. That is next month, 2025. The virtual onboarding period is August to mid-September, and then you can do your on-site research anywhere between mid-September of 2025 to July of 2026. Also, oh, I don't have it on the slide here, but important to note that the review and selection process does take several months. Please know that, once your application is submitted, it goes on for review. It does take us several months to get through all of the applications and go through our review process. So please be patient with us. However, you should hear from us at the very least 2 months before the fellowship start date. If you don't hear from us by then, feel free to reach out. It is entirely possible that we sent to an incorrectly spelled email address, things like that, the notification. So please feel free to reach out to us if you have not heard from us 2 months before the fellowship start date. Again, we have all of those additional resources that you can find on the Native Arts Fellowship section of the fellowship's webpage. If you go to additional resources, if you're researching Smithsonian online collections, archives, or libraries, collections can be filtered by catalog record source. That essentially just means, maybe you're only interested in looking at what's available at NMAI or what's available at Natural History. So you can always filter things those ways. Archives is filtered by archival repository, very similar. And then libraries is filtered by library location. The Smithsonian Opportunities for Research and Study is another great guide that you can take a look at that lists research staff at all Smithsonian museums, but it does have a few additional NMAI staff, including our conservation staff, listed on it that's not included on NMAI's research page. So I would encourage you to also take a look at that guide. Camila can drop that in the chat as well, so that you can take a look and see, some of the other staff that you might be interested in connecting with while you're here. And of course, if you're looking for something and don't find it, please feel free to reach out. So I'm going to leave us with our contact information, which again, of course, you can find on our website. But I, again, am Kendall Trahane. Camila Rivera is our staff assistant who also supports fellowships and interns. And so feel free to reach out to either of us with questions. We also check our joint resource email, nmaifellowships@si.edu.